busy day. I have now Timothy Fling joining us because counting down to 1,000. This is 931, man. I mean, it seems far away, but it's not that far away.
It goes fast. I think, first of all, thanks for having me back, Josh. It's really nice to see you. And I think I was 800 or I was on some kind of milestone before. It was back a ways, but you're really making some progress.
Oh yeah, no, I just, this is what I do, man. I'm just like, you've been seeing I know you've seen some of my motivations this week. I've been basically focusing on character a lot this week, right? Because it's just something I realized, like, as I've been doing this, it's like there are two things I figured out about this whole process. The first is it's a bunch of little steps, not big ones, little ones. And second, it's your character is going to dictate kind of what comes your way, I think, to some degree. So instead of shooting for like the big awards or the big reputation or the big this or the big that, which is wonderful, don't get me wrong, it's better to I think focus on being the best person you can be in whatever it is you're choosing to do, and kind of let what comes. Character tends to trump all. I put an interesting example up there yesterday about an example of how that works. My detractor got very silent once I put that example out there. So I figured
Sure.
Yeah. So it was very fun. Again, everything I'm speaking about too, there's a real experience there. I've lived it in some way or another. So I find that's the other reason why what I say doesn't feel like I'm full of shit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think character is extremely important. And I was talking on one of the podcasts the other day, and the guy made a comment, and I think it applies to you also, Joshua. And I've noticed this about you, and I hope you take it as a compliment, which is that, I'm a little bit of an old school guy. And what I mean by that, of course, I'm aware that we live in an increasingly digital world. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, a great deal of our success is still determined by our relationships and the way that we interact with others. And I've seen the way that you talk to the guests and the way that you talk to people you don't even know. And you're very much you're basically like a motivational speaker, right? And you have a lot of coaching techniques and things. And I a couple times have said, hey man, that's a really good one. You've had a couple, even the last couple of weeks, that have really resounded with me, some of these aphorisms. And when you talk about the way that we interact with others, I think that in the current times that we live in, which are, let's be honest, it's challenging times, mm-hmm. The relationships still determine the course of our successes.
Absolutely. No, this is not a solitary game. Never has been, never will be. I used to hate, like when I was a teenager, I was like, back when I knew something, I said, back in my day, we all should be judged based on our abilities, because we all have this belief that we are awesome at what we do.
Right. We're all special.
We're all special. Right. Right. I got that beaten out of me. No, I'm kidding. It's more like, what you got to realize is it's like there are so many factors to. The fact is, people got to know you exist. I think that is an underrated part of this whole game. Yeah, you can be great at something. You might even be the best in the world. But if no one knows you're out there, who cares? Right? And I don't want to sound like I don't belittle anyone working on their passions. I'm strictly talking in this case, folks, if you're trying to make money doing what you're doing. Right? If you want to do it for you and just for you, you can ignore that. Just do it. Just do what works for you at that point. But if you're trying to get out there and make money, do business, meet people, establish relationships, you got to put yourself out there. That's all there is to it.
And that can be scary, right? It can be intimidating. And it's, I'm one of the few that's, because I'm sort of a private guy. You may have noticed I never really share any of my beliefs or anything. And not that I'm in any way intimidated by them, but, sometimes for me, I guess shy is not probably the right word, because I can be an outgoing guy and I feel comfortable on shows and things. But there's a fine line, and it ties into what you said. Some of us, we are compelled to make some type of creative project And it could be music, writing, comics, art, sculpture, poetry, you know, it can
Anything.
be anything. But the beginning of it, I feel the seed of it, it's something that comes from the individual, and it is not necessarily because we heard this can make a lot of money. Now, in some cases, that's true. But I think, as you and I know, like we're both poets, for example, we're both writers. And, you know, and I do an awful lot of comic book writing these days. No one ever sat me down and said, listen, man, comic book writing, that's where the money is. You know, you got to start making some comics. It's something you do it's for the love of the craft.
It starts there. But there's okay, so this is what I do a talk called the freelance mindset. And the very first thing is creatives are in 3 different categories. So let's talk about them. First is it's a hobby. Right. It's just a hobby. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong. Right. It's a hobby. The second group is I want to do something with this, but I have other priorities, i.e., family, a day job you like, whatever.
Right.
There's nothing wrong being in that category either.
Right.
And then there's the third category, which is I want to try and do something with this. I want to try and make a living at this. Now, again, how big you go, who can fucking say, but you can. It is possible to make a living at this. I've emphasized this on the show a lot. It is absolutely possible, but you have to work at it. It's not an overnight success. It's not like you have to recognize the business of what you do. And a lot of people get caught in the creation of what you do, which is important. You got to understand how to make stuff. But it's like, I made it. What do I do with it? Right. And that part is, and there's such, and especially with the way that this is the thing about it, today's world in particular, back when I started this was like the 90s, right? There were tour superstars. There were publishers that were looking for people. And this is before everything started to kind of close down and isolate. That was still a thing when I started. Now, as I went on, as time went on, the doors disappeared little by little by little by little by little. But ultimately, it's the same thing. Relationships are what open doors for you. That's how this works. This isn't it's not rocket science, but just think about it like this. Do you know how much farther ahead a lot of creatives would be if they just realized that? You got to introduce yourself. You got to be a little bit of a salesman.
Right. Yeah. Quite a bit, actually. And it's one of the things that, first of all, it's a great point, and I agree 100%. And I think that if you had to, first of all, when I use the word failings, let's just use that as a kind of a catch-all term. I'm not judging anybody, but when you look at some of the failings, particularly in the indie creator community, there's a lot of people who say things to me like, and I'm always stunned by this. They say, well, I'm not too good on camera, or, well, I'm not too good with people. It's like, well, hold on. You probably are, first of all, and you're just being too hard on yourself. But the second thing is, like you said, these are critical elements. And particularly, and it may be more so in music than in writing, but I had it's my songwriting partner. He and I were chatting, and he said, look, when you start this YouTube channel, which I'm doing this YouTube channel now, by the way.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's going real well. But one of the things is you're trying to get the viewers to interact with you necessarily. It's not, you might have the greatest topic in the world, and if you don't have sort of an engaging personality and sort of fun to be around, you're not going to get very many viewers. And he says, look, you got to let them sort of into your life a little bit and tell them a little bit, even some personal information. And that's something that was hard for me in the beginning, because like I said, I'm kind of private, you know. And then on top of that, a lot of the creators that I know, they're also very private, and perhaps to the detriment of some of these projects.
Well, okay, so let me put it like this, right? I'm on Twitch, okay? So one of the things I did before I went on Twitch is so I'm a big collectible card game junkie. I love Give Me Magic. I played you saw it. I played Magic with John.
Yeah, John's awesome.
Yeah, we did that on stream. We just said, like, you want to play Magic instead of talk? Sure, let's just do that.
That's great, man.
Yeah, right. You can, but again, I'm having fun. That's the whole. Not everybody watches every stream of mine right away. I've noticed this, right? but I've watched how I make people generally feel, right? Because that's really your gauge, right? You don't want them to feel lukewarm about you. You want them to feel like you're someone they'd want to be around,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And
Yep, exactly.
that's the so you can be dry. I mean, hell, you can be dry. Now, some people have the advantage of they already have a name. Uh, there's one particular creator I've watched on TikTok, and I watched him, and I said, he'd be better if he was a little bit more loose, right? But he's got a name, so he's getting way more views than I am. So what the fuck do I know? But I'm watching a contemporary of his, who I really admire as a person, right? Now
Yeah.
she's just having fun.
Yeah.
Her channel is better than his, and
Yeah.
he's got
Right.
right. It's way
I
better
get
than
it.
his,
I get
right?
it.
And the reason being is I'm going to mention the person that is got a good channel. And that's Susie Vidori. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Susie.
Yeah, all right. I'm saying nice things about you here, but I say it like that because she has a fun channel. She's a writing coach, but she's having fun with it on TikTok. Now, TikTok hurts my brain a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It hurts my brain a little bit because it feels very almost Pavlovian in some ways, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, what the fuck do I know? I'm just a dude, right. So as long as people are having fun, But again, the other dude's channel, I watched it. It was just like, no, nah.
Well, I think you
flip.
have a kind of truth there that you can sense if somebody else is really having fun with what they're doing. And a guy I used to work with, he said that when you're making projects, there's always an element of whimsy in any project, right? And he said, don't forget that element, because we all have a tendency to take ourselves so seriously that other people not be able to feel the whimsy in it, right? And I think that's such a critical ingredient.
Okay, so in the novel I'm writing right now, the very first chapter, there's a bar with a little roof that's falling in pieces throughout the bar. It's random, right? Just why did I put it there? Because it seemed like fun, right?
Yeah.
I have another chapter. Where I'm doing in the same book. I have a dinosaur raid of a prison, and dino shit is the weapon of mass destruction. Same book, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's got this this dark undertone, but it's got these little quirky little bits of whimsy, because I realized something important a lot. So I read Terry. I'm a big Terry Pratchett guy.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big Terry Pratchett guy. So Terry Pratchett had this ability to tell this really profound stuff, but he was silly.
Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor. Sure, I would agree with that.
Yeah. He was silly a lot of the time. So when he was profound, it really hit you. I mean, that was the secret to his magic trick, is when he was serious, you paid attention, because he wasn't serious that often. Or actually, I'm gonna lie. That's a bit of a lie. He was serious more than people gave him credit for, but he let you enjoy what he was doing more so than him being serious. So when he turned the tables on you, you're like, oh shit, I have to listen, because it's really profound, right?
Sure.
Right. So that, and Terry was really good at.
You know what that reminds me of is, by any chance, were you ever a fan of a book called Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt?
I've heard of it. I don't know if I've read it.
Yeah, it was made into a movie and stuff. The movie wasn't necessarily too great, but that's a good example of him. He sort of has this Irish way of telling a story about his alcoholic family. And I'm not exaggerating. On one page, you'd be laughing because of the hilarious way he tells the story. And then he would tell this grim thing that happened to the family. And man, one page you're laughing, the next page you're crying. And it was just like he was able to seamlessly flip between those two themes, and it's like you said, the humor made the seriousness stand out.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's some people that do it the other way. This makes are serious, but have the odd bits of humor here and there that make it really good. I'm a big Peter David guy. Like Peter David for comics.
Yeah.
Right. I loved my favorite two books from him. His Incredible Hulk run is self-explanatory, but my favorite two books of his was his Aquaman run, right? Run, and and uh, and Spy Boy. What's the book? What the book was
I don't
called?
think I know that one. I know the Aquaman and I know the Hulk.
Yeah. So Spy Boy was for Dark Horse. It wasn't advertised very well. I found it post.
Yeah.
It's a genius little book. It is.
Well, I love Dark Horse books, so that's right.
Yeah. I know it's a genius little gem of a book. It doesn't end. It never got to end, which is too bad because it's a really good book. But it has its dark moments. But it's about a teenage spy. So Peter David would put in stuff that teenage boys do, and you'd end up laughing, right? Like one of my favorite scenes is okay. So his partner is about his age. It's also pretty hot. Like she's a pretty hot. So she's like doing in a position bent over, like doing something. It's like, hey, how you feeling over there? And he's just watching her, kind of, and just enjoying what he's saying. Like, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Not gonna lie, right? Right. And it's just one of those. It's one of those things where you just look at him. It's like, I get this. I totally get this. But in the same book, you'll have this super serious crisis with the characters, or development of characters. Like Spy Boy, like family history is very complicated. So same issue, you'd have that moment juxtaposed with a really serious story. And David was great at that. Like that, I think honestly, it's why he was such a good writer. Very few writers could be serious and funny in the same book and hit you with the right level of gravity. Now, David doesn't go ha funny to tell his stories. His humor just comes naturally as a result of just it's a byproduct of the story he's telling.
Yeah,
But
his dialogue, for one thing, he's got some humorous dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. So, right, he's good at that. Like he has these like little moments here and there that are just really, really good. He did it in Aquaman too. One of my favorites was when Mary came back after a Dolphin and Aquaman consummated their relationship, and Dolphin comes back wearing Aquaman's shirt. Right, and and it's funny because Mara's like, "What are you doing? What's it look like I'm doing? I'm wearing a shirt." And then right, and she's like, "You can't do this." Like, "Yeah, I can. I just did, and it looked better on me than it did on you. I'm sure." Right, just like they had this like, he had a lot of fun with Dolphin in that moment. In the back of his head, Dolphin was programmed to kill Arthur, ironically enough, and that didn't come till a little bit later. But there's this he has this like serious, dark, like Arthur's growth as becoming what a king is a big part of the first 2 years of Aquaman run, and like Dolphin's levity in some spots helped with those darker moments. But when it really hits you, what's going on with Arthur and his transformations and everything he's becoming, right? Where everything he became on the journey, right? That stuff's really serious. And that's the majority of the book. But he would throw in these little things here and there. And you'd be like, okay, that's good shit. That's
good writing.
Funny.
Yeah. And in the right hands, it's funny because Aquaman gets a lot of grief, right? But the truth is that with the right creative team, Aquaman's got some really great storylines.
Yes. No. Aquaman can be good.
Yeah.
Just like Wonder Woman can be good. It depends on who is helming them. The thing about DC Comics characters, the thing about them is their concepts more than their characters. Like the older ones, the new like Dick Grayson is like the first true character, right? Batman is also kind of a true like that way. But if you look at everybody like Superman, he's an idea. If you look at Wonder Woman, he's an idea. If you look at Aquaman, he's an idea. You look at the Flash, although the Flash is really easy to humanize of the bunch, he's an idea. You look at Green Lantern, he's especially Hal. Hal especially is an idea more than he is an actual character. So what happens is those characters aren't as elastic as, say, Batman. So Batman you can put anywhere and you can tell a story with him, right? And depending on where you put him, it's the kind of story you can tell with Batman. Superman can't be a serial killer.
Right.
Batman could be, but Superman you can't. But Superman can't.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. You know, I always leaned more toward Batman and to the more character-driven stories, more so than Superman. And I can remember being a kid and Superman was always the most popular. But you know, he never, for me, there was never any sense of real danger for him. Or
You don't. Okay, so it's the kind of stories you can tell. Okay, you talk about whimsy and fun, right? That's the route you go with Superman. Fuck
right.
seriousness. Why? What can't he solve? Right?
Yeah.
No. Let's have him do something stupid. Let's have Jimmy Olsen become a tentacle monster. Right?
Right. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Let's shrink him and put him in the bottled city of Kandor. Let's have him have to win Lois's affection from Hercules.
Yeah, right. Dude, these are gold. They're gold. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
These are also stories that have been told. By the way, what I'm referencing, boys and girls, is a particular Superman series called All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
So all of those stories have been told there. Now, there is a serious story in that one, but it's a rare case where that works. Most of those stories were whimsical.
Yeah, right. Well, it's like you said, the whimsical nature made the serious part, it lent it more gravity. He was dying, right? He was exposed to solar radiation or something.
Yeah. He had an overdose.
That's right.
He had an overdose of solar radiation.
He had some kind of super cancer or something.
Well, no, it was just
his cells overloaded with radiation.
Yeah, just overloaded. It wasn't going to kill him right away, but it was going to eventually kill him. It was clever. It was incredibly clever. But then you got to see him do all kinds of stupid stuff for like 9 of those next 10 issues. Or actually, I say 8 of the next 10. There's 2 really serious stories in that run, right? The issue where him and Luthor were in prison together, when he was Clark Kent, and the issue where his dad died. But everything else, they and even in the issue where his dad died, even though that ending really, really sucked, there was so much fun shit in that story, right? It was fun until it wasn't, and that's why it hit so hard, right? Because he couldn't stop his dad from dying, and no matter what he did, no matter what that task he completed, no matter how he did it, there was no way he could save his dad, and it oddly created a little bit, made him more human.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Right, it oddly made him more human, and that's how you work Superman should not. So Superman, I think I said this to you last time. Superman should be one of 2 things. He should be whimsical, or he should be like the coolest dad ever. That's it. That is all you need him to be.
Yeah.
Don't try him to be anything else. It won't work. Fuck it. Don't wear a drum. Serious Superman is for suckers. Don't do it. Just have fun with him.
Yeah. I think Grant Morrison, I thought one of the better versions of the last 20 years or so.
Oh, no,
let me ask you, so are you a Grant Morrison fan?
I love Grant Morrison stuff.
Yeah.
By and large. Here's what I like about Grant Morrison. Even when he misses, it's bold. That's the thing about it. Like when he misses, it's bold. So my favorite thing Morrison's done in the last 20 years is 7 Soldiers of Victory. Oh
yeah, I love that one. That's terrific.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love the entire run, all the series, all 4. Okay, so folks, what Morrison did is he did a 28 issue epic in like 6 months. He did a front, 2 bookends, a front and a back, and a bunch of 4 issue miniseries with 7 characters. So it's 7 characters. So it's 30 all together. So the front end and the back end, the caveat was the 7 Soldiers of Victory never actually met each other. He made Clarion the Witch Point awesome. That was the first good Zatanna book I've ever read. Right, Shining Knight is my favorite of that run. It's really good. His Mr. Miracle is a lot of fun. His Mr. Hero is super fun. He did. I'm thinking of some of the other characters. I'm missing a few, but the point is, that I thought was such an ambitious project. Now, I don't think the last issue is that good. Right? It's not. I think.
Do I remember there were some other writers in there too?
No, he wrote it all. He wrote it all, start to finish. That was why it was such a bold idea.
It was.
And just, how do I put this? I just didn't think he stuck the landing. But
Gotcha.
but that doesn't, like, my personal opinion, folks. 29 out of 30 ain't bad. But right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And the minis are all like, they're self-contained and they're readable on their own. They're good concepts, right? Like I said, there's a Clarion the Witch book boy that's actually good. The Manhattan Guardian is really good. So, like, all these books rock. They
I'm
all
not as
do.
knowledgeable about the Seven Soldiers, but I do follow most of his material.
Yeah.
Were you a multiversity guy at all?
I was.
Some of those were a little weird, right?
Well, it wasn't that they were weird. I would just this is not, I think that, in all fairness to Grant Morrison on that one, I'm Crisised out. I'm Infinite Earthed out. I am multiversed out.
Yeah.
I am single versed out. I don't care, DC. I don't. You know what I care about?
What do you think? What do you think, in your opinion, is the best Grant Morrison work? Actually, hold on. Let me make two questions. What do you think is his best work, and what is your least favorite?
Final Crisis is my least favorite. It's not bad. I think it's better than people give it credit for. I just personally think that, if it's not Crisis on Infinite Earths, I don't ever want to see the word crisis anywhere.
And what is your favorite by
Batman and Robin, when Dick Grayson was Batman?
Okay, sure. Good one. I would take, for my favorite, one disclosure, I'm a huge Doom Patrol guy.
His Doom Patrol's good. His Doom Patrol's really good.
Okay, I'll take Doom Patrol for my favorite then, if you're a fan. And for my least favorite, I almost said Animal Man, which I almost really love that series. But my one that I didn't like, and this will probably surprise you because this is one that people loved, and it's good, but I just couldn't get into it. The Invisibles. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
They were like a secret team I don't know if it didn't quite gel for me. I'm not sure why.
It's fair. No, it's fair. It's all right. The Matrix owes a huge thank you to the Invisibles, but we'll leave that for another day. We'll leave that for another day.
That whole episode on that.
Yeah, you could, and I'm not going to go there because I don't want legal problems either. What I will say is, he has an amazing imagination. I love his creativity. I enjoyed his Green Lantern book. It was a love letter to Silver. Him and Liam Sharp did a fun love letter to the first 74 issues of Hal Jordan Green Lantern. It's fantastic, right? It's a lot of fun.
You could make a pretty solid point that is where Grant Morrison is strongest. And by the way, I know people are going to disagree with what I'm about to say here, but I would say that he is the strongest when he takes well-established material and sort of turns it on its head a little bit. And what I mean by that is the stuff like Doom Patrol, Animal Man, All-Star Superman. It's classic, but it's turned slightly off its axis, right?
I don't think it's slightly off its axis, though. I think it's just true to form with what he was presenting. Okay, if you look at, I want to look at the Green Lantern because that was his last comic stride. Okay. The Green Lantern was it was a love letter to the first 74 issues of the pulpy Silver Age Green Lantern. All of the references in there were a homage to that. And by the way, my favorite one in there is when Green Lantern goes inside his own power ring to fight Meridian. That was, and Meridian, and I know who the character is because I have that run, is a character nobody's heard of because that character hasn't been seen since like issue 100 something, right? This is like his last appearance was like just after the Green Lantern Green Arrow run. So the thing is, right? He looks at what worked in the past. He reimagines it for today. That's all he does. And he's really good at it. Like, okay, you haven't touched his Marvel stuff. I mean, he's the reason Cyclops is interesting.
Yeah, look, I got to be honest with you. You know, I have not read most of his Marvel stuff. I don't know why that is, and I even have the X-Men trade over there. It's on my to be read pile, which I got a pretty, like most writers, I have a pretty large to be read
Yeah,
pile.
absolutely.
But I guess I'm not sure the right way to say this because I do love Marvel. It isn't that, but I just haven't quite gravitated to it yet. Like I've almost read all of his DC stuff and almost none of the Marvel stuff. And I know that's not fair, so I've got to dive in at some point.
He's not as well known for his Marvel, but X-Men's the book you read there because he made Cyclops interesting. He made Emma Frost like actually kind of heroic.
Right, interesting.
Which is
and
something
isn't that Frank Whiteley too?
Yeah.
Yeah, who I love.
Yeah, no. That was, I think, their first actual collaboration together. But yeah, he made Cyclops interesting.
Wait. So this was before All-Star Superman?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, this was after the Matrix became a thing. This is after his JLA run, which, by the way, is where I first read Grant Morrison, which is also a fantastic run. Like the thing is, he left DC due to issues with Warner, and he went to Marvel, and X-Men was the book that he was given, and he killed off. He was the one that killed off Jean Grey. He was the one that did that. But he gave us Cyclops and Emma Frost, and that was intriguing on a bunch of different levels because Emma you saw her at that time as this kind of hot villain. That's what she was, right?
Yeah.
But then you saw Cyclops actually looking at the fact that his girlfriend is essentially a goddess incarnate, right? Essentially.
Sure. Yeah.
And he can't measure up to her, and he has some of the things she does, he has no clue how to deal with. Not to mention that Wolverine also has a bit of a thing for her, which is always a little weird, right? Which is a little bit weird. And the thing about that is, right? The thing about that, so he's got these really human doubts, and Emma is maybe at first trying to take advantage of those doubts a little bit by offering to give him therapy, but somewhere along the way, a genuine connection happens. They get each other.
Yeah.
Right? That was, and still is, Cyclops is most interesting. And Emma Frost is like, yeah, I'm in love with him. He loves you, but I'm in love with him. And it ends up that those two end up being together. And that couple lasted a very long time in comics because, again, it's an interesting dynamic. And that's all Morrison.
I'll have to check that out. On your recommendation, Josh, I will definitely check that out because I trust your judgment. And
now
astonishingly, I've never read that one.
Yeah. So now everything he did in that was gold, but that part in particular, man, he had some really good ideas there. And I mean, and so when X-Men sucked before the Krakoa stuff, the only book I tried from there was X-Men Red, which was Tom Taylor's take on it.
I remember that one.
All he did was reimagine Jean Grey as Professor X, and the villain is Grant Morrison's created villain. Like it's kind of like a renewed rivalry. It's easily the best X-Men book of that era. Easily.
What's your take on? I guess for the current phase of the DCEU is going to focus on, or at least emulate, some of Grant Morrison's work. What's your 2 cents on that?
Oh, they gotta go somewhere else. With all due respect to Alan Moore, I don't want an Alan Moore world anymore.
Yeah, it's already been done. It's already been done.
Right. And so, so the most prolific authors in comics for the last 30 years. So don't think about it. Moore. Well, no, that Moore is 40. So 90s. Grant Morrison, Warren Ellis, which they're not going to touch right now for reasons.
Right.
And right, he's the other person you could go with. He's got all these properties he's imagined all throughout the years.
Yeah.
You got maybe, and then you got the Jeff Johns crew. And of all due respect to Jeff Johns, his time has kind of come and gone as well.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Jeff Johns. He gets a little bit of vitriol, but I'm a fan of his work.
I think there was a point he did the same thing Morrison did, honestly, in that he would take a character and look what made them really cool and kind of reimagine them for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be forever thankful for him for his take on Hal. He made Hal Jordan kind of interesting. Which is,
are you talking about Blackest Night?
I would even right before that, Green Lantern, from Green Lantern book to Blackest Night, Green Lantern was one of the best books on the market, easily. Right? I think it got a little crazy with all the different colored core. I think there's too much of that.
A little too much. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's nitpicking. Like up until Blackest Night, it was a freaking it was a home run the whole way through.
I'm a huge fan of Blackest Night, and I'm also a Flashpoint guy, which is, it looks like the Flashpoint is going to be, I mean, it was touched on in Batman versus Superman. You know, it had small elements of it. And then I guess Flashpoint is a big part of the current Flash movie that's coming up. Or at least that's what I hear. I mean, obviously I haven't seen the movie yet. But, you know, it's even by looking at the trailer, it looks like there's some fragments of the Flashpoint series in there.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know. What again, I'm not okay. Again, I have to openly admit I'm not cool. I haven't really gone out of my way to watching television in like forever.
Right? You're super cool, man. You're too hard on yourself.
Yeah, no. I'm okay being out of touch a little bit. I had to give up something. Yeah. And for me, it was television was the easiest thing to give up because books are interactive, video games are interactive.
Yeah.
Right. Even comics.
Well, listen, you're preaching to the choir here, Josh, because I'm more of a book guy and more of a gamer guy. I'm in those two fields. I'm way more involved.
So I have friends who act. I'll watch their stuff at this point. If I do watch something right now, so these are the shows I am watching right now. Currently, I'm on season 3 of The Boys. I will watch the rest of that at some point. The Wheel of Time, because that is my fantasy series. So I'm going to watch the television show.
Sure.
So those two. Okay. So I got those two. On top of that, I have currently I'm watching Fairy Tale for anime, and I'm watching Fringe. I have the entire series of Fringe.
Okay, sure.
So that's it. That is all of and then when I'm watching anything else, it is AEW wrestling, because that's all I got time for. Right. And that is it. I don't watch anything else. I don't do anything else. I decided after Endgame, I was marveled out for the foreseeable future. And I still don't really feel like a desire to go back and see any of those movies at this point in time. I look at DC's movies. They haven't been, again, I'm sure they're not bad, but they haven't really grabbed me. And so I'm at that point. The current thing is, if I get to, and I will watch this. If I do see it, Harley Quinn from HBO. That's a hilarious show. But that's it. That's all I've watched. I have been very out of touch, and it has been on purpose.
You know what I just saw, and it was surprisingly good. And like I say, I'm not a big TV guy either. In fact, I just canceled a bunch of my streaming services as they all kept increasing their prices. So I just dropped Netflix and Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But I watched, I had Hulu, which came it was bundled in with my phone somehow. And I thought, well, okay, I'll watch a little bit of Hulu. And they had the movie there, Prey, which is the reimagining of the Predator movie, where he's fighting against a indigenous, I guess, do they still say Native American? I guess they do. It's a Native American woman who ends up becoming the warrior chief of her tribe. It's actually kind of cool. I know it sounds corny, and
no, you know what? No, it could be quite good. Like, it could be quite good. Like I said, I just don't have time. Like, I just don't have time. Right.
Well, I would pitch that one too, because it was definitely, it was almost like, I was pleasantly surprised. As a writer, there's one or two things I took issue with. And since you're a writer, I'll tell you this. The scripting was a little lazy. Here's what I mean by the scripting. First off, I'm not ragging on the movie. I enjoyed it. Great directing, great cinematography. The lead, I remember her last name is Mid Thunder. I forget her first name, but she is an actual indigenous person and just, I mean, killed the role, really sold it.
Mhm.
But in the script, they say things like she's walking out from behind a tree and the guys have their bows and arrows out. And the guy says, "Hey, are you trying to get shot?" Wait, somebody with a bow and arrow wouldn't say shot. That's something you say about a gun. Like it didn't, it like really took you out of the moment. You know what I mean? Even in, because it was set in 1719, these people had never seen a gun. They wouldn't have said shot, you know, even then you would have said loose and arrow, or they should have said, "Are you trying to get killed?" Maybe. But anyway, you know, I'm a script guy, so I overanalyze things. So I remember thinking to myself, well, it doesn't make any sense. They wouldn't have said that, you know. But
No, but this is what, okay, so I've worked on a movie, I've worked on some film stuff. A bad script can be overcome by good acting and a good performance.
and this one was. It definitely was.
Yeah. So you can overcome that to a point. Now sometimes it's complete dog shit. Like again, a personal dare to anyone that has time to kill and wants to actually have copious amount of pain. Try to watch the movie Blood Rain. Try.
Blood Rain. Refresh my memory here.
It's about the concept's cool. It's about a vampire. It's a coming of age medieval vampire story.
Okay.
Okay. It's based off a video game. The video game's decent. I'm not gonna say it's terrible.
Oh, Blood Rain. Rayne.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it. Sure. I'm a gamer.
Yeah. Don't watch that movie unless you want to suffer.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't. I mean, that. But the thing is, if you look at the cast, that was a decent cast. It just was horribly directed.
Yeah.
Right. It's horribly directed.
And that's a female hero. Isn't Blood Rain a woman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No. It was terrible. And it's not. I don't. Since I've worked, I get this. An actor and an actress are going to, I mean, they might have some say in what their characters are doing, but they're going to they got to do what they're told at the end of the day. It's like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to do this. And there was a point, I just think that everybody just kind of went, all right, let's just get this over with. Yeah. It's Mortal Kombat Annihilation bad. Like it's bad. It's bad. And it's just like, sometimes you can't overcome that. But for the most part, if an actor or an actress believes in the character enough, puts on a good enough of a performance, the little holes in the script can be overcome because the performance is so charismatic that you'll forget it. Like you don't need the perfect script, but you need a good performance. You need characters people can believe in, and the Predator is always a badass obstacle, right? Just always is, right? So.
And it was cool too. He was like he wasn't exactly the Predator we already know. He was slightly less evolved, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, less toys. Less toys.
Yeah. Like the same way that they were from 1700 something, the Predator was also 300 years ago. It was neat. It was neat. And like she even had the thing that I like, Josh, and I try to put this into my own books as well. The way that she was defeating the Predator had very little to do with weapons and everything to do with being resourceful and thinking on her feet. And I guess I'm not really spoiling the movie. It came out 2 years ago, right? Or 3 years ago now. But like, for example, one of the things like earlier in the film, she had fallen into like a pit of, well, it was like an oil pit is what it was, sort of like quicksand in a way. So of course while she's being tracked, she lures him back so that he will fall into the pit. And of course, I kind of even saw that coming, but it illustrates, you know, she was using the environment against him rather than a weapon, which I thought was
because she can't face him head on. Like
right.
that was the whole thing. Like you like even when the first Predator movie came out, okay, the Predator wipes out that entire squad. Those well-trained killers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Right. And he would have killed Schwarzenegger too if Schwarzenegger hadn't fallen into the mud when he did.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And that's when it turned around. It went from how do I stop this monster to
right.
How can I get this guy? Right. How can I get this guy? I have a chance.
I had a chance. And this movie had an element of that too, where she realizes he can't see me right now. Or it was actually the other guy that he couldn't see. But it's neat how the script works it in, you know?
Yeah, because again, it's one of those issues. It's one of those challenges, right? When you do a story is, okay, you have this big monster. How do you beat him and not lose the credibility of the monster?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, because the thing about again, so I'm going to use a wrestling term here. The good guy against the predator has to be fighting from underneath, right? Because the monster
Mhm.
has to be a warrior, someone that kicks ass, someone that takes names, and every direct approach that's been done with him usually does not go well for the people that he's dealing with.
Right.
That's just the way it is, right? He's intimidating, he's scary, and he wins quite a
Well, and
bit.
there was a neat element too of, and I think this is effective for scripting. And after this, I'm a scripting person, so I'm gonna ask your opinion about some script things. But one of them was that the predator underestimated her because of all the creatures. She was the least threatening because she was a female.
Mm-hmm.
But he critically misjudged it because she was the most intelligent. She was even smarter than the French trappers with their guns and all this other stuff. And the way that it was, in my opinion, perfect was that's the way it ended, in that it was more based on her intellect and her resourcefulness, which the things that made her the weakest were really the things that made her able to defeat the predator.
It's one of the it's one of the best tools of writing. Did you ever read? Have you ever read Jim Butcher?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he has a series called the Codex Alara. It's a fantasy novel series. It's 6 books. I'm picking that one because Dresden Files, which you may have heard of,
I have,
has
yeah,
like
I
20
have, yeah.
books. So that's a lot to ask you to get into. But Codex Alara is 6 books. So the main character, Tabby, has a huge handicap. He can't use magic. Everybody else has some degree of a gift. So he has to use his wits, right, to level the playing field. And those are much more interesting characters because they're not relying on brute force and power or right, and they're almost always in a situation where they're overmatched on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. Well, the thing about that is, right, it's how do they win? And that underestimation continues. So my favorite, so I'm going to spoil a tiny bit. There's a scene in book 3. Secretly, Tavi is the long lost prince. That's the spoiler, folks. And the build to him ascending the throne is one of my favorite things I've ever seen in literature. But there's a scene where, so the first book opened up with a knight betraying the king. So they actually kind of meet in secret because the knight I'm talking about is actually like a spy or a kind of spy, and they talk and they meet, and they had the relationship, even though they were enemies. Now they still had like a bit of they were like friends in some ways. Well, they meet up and go, and they're just talking like friends, and they finally go, "Why haven't you claimed him? Put him on the throne. Why can't protect him from his enemies?" And then I love the spy master, like, "Don't be stupid. Excuse me? He just did this, and this. How much more fucking qualified does he need to be?" He went right, and he just laid it out personally. He went, this army that came after you, right? He wipes out all your troops. He takes this ragtag group of people, and he goes and beats this guy personally. He went up to them personally, and he made sure the guy went down. I watched it happen. I was there because he was spying on him, right? I watched him do this. Because this guy played his card like, he goes, he's vicious, he's ruthless, he solves the problems in front of you, right? And it's just like, and again, how smart he was, like playing with the hand he was dealt. That's what makes that series work so well all the way through. It's just a fantastic series, right? I love those kind of characters. Again, because the other thing is they don't win in the ways you expect them to, right? Right. Like, going back to the Superman thing, the reason why it's hard, Superman's so hard to write, is it's hard to feel sympathy for him. It's hard because what doesn't he have? Like, seriously.
Right.
It's very hard to feel sympathy for a guy like that. But someone that doesn't have the ability to fight back like everybody else does, right? Who only has so many tools in the arsenal. And you're going against a monster that the guys with more toys fall into. Well, shit, right? That's how are you going to get out of this? If they couldn't do it, how could you?
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Like we talk about the ins and outs of scripting and how, well, the first comment I'd like to make about that is, being a comic book creator, and I say this to any of my friends, man, if you're making comic book scripts for your author, you essentially have the building blocks of making yourself a movie script. So don't ever tell yourself that you can't make a movie script. And I'll tell you why. It sort of happened to me this year already. And again, this is something that happened accidentally. But, I work with a songwriting partner, we write songs. And he makes, I guess you'd call them scores for films. And these guys made a couple of small horror films, and there was one that was like a Christmas film, and they're sort of like what you and I would call lower tier filmmakers. Again, I'm not being insulting, but they're beginning level guys, okay? And they do like Indiegogos and things. And to give you an idea of the kind of funds they need to raise for each one of these projects, I think the last one they were trying to raise like 150 grand. Like they need a big nut to crack, right? Well, he says to him, man, it's a shame, I got all these actors and cinematographers. I wish we had more writers, because the guy has sort of like it's a little bit of like a learning disability. Like he can't read very well. So it's challenging for him to write. And my songwriting partner goes, hey man, I got this buddy, he writes these comic scripts. He's referring to me, right? So I go in for this meeting, and first, as some people know already, I'm kind of a science fiction writer. So this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. What they were doing is trying to develop a Western. It is a revenge-based thriller that takes place. Yeah, it takes place on a train. It's all outlaws on this train, right? Like they're all angry with each other for some reason. And to which I reply, hey, sure, man, I can do that, So I turn in this script. It's like a 24-page script, and it's essentially an hour and a half worth of dialogue between these characters. Well, it goes great. And man, what a terrific experience. I get to meet everybody and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm involved with it for maybe 90 days, 120 days. And then of course, they get their funding pulled, which I guess for filmmakers, there's a lot of things that can happen that can affect whether or not you make these projects. And so then they're put back on, they're going to make another Christmas movie. And it's kind of like one of those Hallmark films. Again, I'm not making fun of anything. That's just what happened, So here's me. I come out there and I'm like, well, okay, now I got this script, which is very fleshed out, something very different for me. So to make a long story short, I'm going to go into the Western business here. The thought occurred to me, maybe I should try and make a film, because how hard could it be? But then I look at these.
So listen.
Yeah, well, I think positive. I'm like you. Like I look at things and they don't look impossible to me.
No, but this might be an alcoholic beverage by the time you're done. You're gonna have those moments of like, what the fuck did I just agree to?
Yeah, well, all I really brought to the table was this script, and then once you get the characters and the settings and things fleshed out, like I've put out enough books now to know, you get to a certain level, it's like a horse. Once it gets out the gate, man, it keeps going. You just
it does.
You have to steer where it's going to end up. So
sometimes, but I am going to push back on you just a touch. I don't think Western's out of your wheelhouse. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because it's a systems concept. Science fiction is all about systems.
Yeah.
So's fantasy. So's thriller.
Yeah.
So's Western. So's horror. If you understand, basically, you just got to understand how the system works, right? Thrillers, it's about building up tension, building up tension, building up tension, building up tension, and build, build, boom, build, boom, right? And you just, it's almost like you're cocking a hammer, building up to a certain height, and then you swing, right? And that's pretty much what that is. So I don't really think it's that out of the element. Although I will give you props if you do film a Western, that will be you definitely coming out of your comfort zone. It's not. I don't think it's impossible. I think it'll obviously because it's your first one, it's going to take a lot of trial and error. I mean, that's just part of the curve.
Right. And by the way, I don't have any designs on being a filmmaker or anything. That's not well. And I guess let me rewind a couple of statements, which is many of the things that happened to me, Josh, have happened accidentally in the course
Mm-hmm.
of doing something else. And you and I sort of chatted about that briefly last time, which is, hey, when I started, I was going to be a script guy. I'm a writer and I'm going to make these comic book scripts. But then, of course, what happens is first you become a writer, then you become a publisher, then you become a Kickstarter maker, then you become a podcasting YouTube guy, and now I've got all these things going on. It's almost about half hard to juggle at times. And
Well, I know the feeling. So this podcast was an accident. Didn't plan it. I accidentally got traditionally published. I accidentally did a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how biblical you are, but there's a biblical concept. And it's this.
A little bit.
Okay. It's a parable. If you're given 5 talents, 5 gifts, and you use them, you get 5 more. You get those 5 talents, 10, those 10, you get 10 more. If you have 1 talent and you don't use it, it gets taken from you and given to someone else.
Wow. Heavy.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. It's a biblical concept. The idea is I wanted to write books and get published. So along the way, I've learned how to market, podcasts, do video, do audio, draw.
Right.
It's
like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Yeah, this is how it goes. I have an educational massage therapy show debuting next week. I've been wanting. All right, so this was not if you were to tell me this was again 10 years ago, this is where you're gonna end up. I'm like, really? Nah, right?
Yeah.
Right? But that's how it goes. The thing is, we never, even the people that get really big in writing, publishing, all that stuff, they're not just doing that. Look, I'm going to tell a story I haven't told to anybody yet. So I tried to interview Kevin Eastman, and it looked like I was going to get an opportunity to do it. But the agent said you'd only would get a 10-minute interview. I turned it down. Don't want Kevin Eastman for 10 minutes. I want Kevin Eastman for an hour. Right? So, that's just the way it is. I've gotten bigger names than him, and people are going to be like, you're crazy. It's like, no, it's just, this is just how this goes. Like you go down, you set up a goal, and you try to achieve it. But along the way, I didn't get Kevin Eastman, but I got Marissa Mayer. I've gotten Spider Robinson. I've gotten Jonas Saul. I've gotten Kelly Armstrong.
Nice.
I've gotten Chase Sawyer. So, it's not. So, you don't always get everything you set out to go for. Like this vision of what you have and what's possible isn't always the same thing.
It's funny you say that because this other thing happened to me. And maybe it's I don't know how to say no, Josh. It's partly that, I suppose. But, so I start making these for the viewers that don't know, I started doing this YouTube channel. And what it is, we do the top 11 lists and we talk about things like we've done cryptids, UFO sightings, and they're like interesting topics. And then they end with, hey, if you like material like this, you'd probably like so-and-so's new project. And then I'll pitch whoever I'm interviewing always has like a project. And as you know, I do it all. I'm a nice enough guy, I guess, but I do it for a selfish reason too, which number one, I want to try and give a little something back to the indie community because they've been great to me. Mm-hmm. And number two, I'm trying to get people to notice my stuff. And so much of that now depends on your name brand and to raise your presence in the community, right?
And there's a third reason too, going back to what we started with, you're building relationships with people.
Right. And, almost all the people that have been on the show, honestly, I'm kind of like you in that I've noticed you have great relationships with these creators. And, I'm on episode 14 or 15, something like that. It'll be quite a while till I'm at 931. But I do try to build the relationship with the people, and then I would consider them friends, quite honestly. And what happened to me was now I get people writing to me and they say things like, hey, I see you got a little bit of editing and some graphics. Can you do video editing for my blah, 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 blah? So now I go, you know what? Yeah, why not? So now I guess I'm going to be offering video editing too.
Yeah, I do that now too. I do that as well. It's part of the deal. I do a raw footage, but again, like I said, the YouTube channel debuts next week, and I got a couple clients I'm working with right now, and but again, I recognize I'm very careful about what I'm not saying I say yes to everything, but it has to fit what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right.
You're right. And I'm not afraid to say no though either. Right. If it's not what I want, I'm not doing it.
This time next year, we'll both be running a cooking show. Who knows?
Who the fuck knows?
We'll both be on The Bachelorette or some nonsense. Like I say,
right.
Life is full of twists and turns. And, I never knew that any of this would happen to me. And I'm always pleased to tell viewers, look, I'm as surprised as you are. This last Kickstarter we did, now I make trading cards. The trading cards ship to 19 countries.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what? Like, if you would have told me that would happen, I'd be, why are you even making trading cards? Like, I never even knew I'd be doing that. But it's, it became a thing, so here we are.
Yeah, I know. It's like one day you wake up and you just like, I'm doing this shit. And you're like, how did this happen? And then somewhere along the way, you just realize you don't know.
There's a great line by a fella by the name of Paul Chadwick. He made some comics for Dark Horse. He was the writer of a series called Concrete, if anybody's familiar.
I remember Concrete, the Human Dilemma. Yes.
Great series, and what a fantastic writer. And he said it had to do with the fellas that were climbing Mount Everest. And he said that for most people, great achievements are not necessarily like some great revelation and performing some great task in one day. The great achievements belong to the people who woke up each day and did something small over and over and over again.
That has been the theme of the last few weeks for me.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth in it.
Yeah, it's been the theme. I'm trying, like I said, I'm at a cusp right now. I've been at this cusp right now. I have made, as a freelancer, I have made about $1,000 a month on average. This month, I'm making more.
Congratulations.
Yeah. This month, I'm making more. Again, I've stuck with it. Little things, right? I want to make just a touch more, because if I get to adjust a touch more, I can afford to be on the road constantly.
And yeah, I saw you were preparing like a road tour or something.
Yeah, so I'm taking the show on the road for the foreseeable future, because I don't know if I talked about this last time. I'll talk about it here. I came back to Calgary kind of to reconnect with some people and hang out and stuff like that. And what I noticed with a lot of people here is that desire to connect is just not there. Now, that's not true to everybody, mind you, but for quite a few people, it's been that way, right? And it's been interesting to go through that process with people, because it's not what I come back for. Again, this comes to what I said earlier about being honest about what you want. And in the last, we'll say 3-4 years for sure, my following has quadrupled in most places. More so on audio views than like it's not unusual for me now most weeks to have like 400, 500 downloads in a week. It's not unusual anymore.
That's impressive.
It's not unusual anymore. I have weeks that are less. I have weeks that are a lot more. My best week was 2,200 downloads.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's impressive.
Yeah. So I have become something of a solid entity doing this. And so, but again, I didn't do this. This didn't happen overnight. It's been a gradual process. This year, since I've been since the year has started, my numbers are higher this year than they were last year. Now, they haven't gotten to super, super new highs, but they're higher. And if they keep up the way they're going to keep, if it's happened the last few years, I'm going to hit a new plateau when I get to June, because that's been how this has gone every year. And again, this isn't me doing rocket science stuff. Every day, I know you follow some of the things I do. I do a motivation every day.
Right.
I post whatever I'm up to. I advertise. I repeat over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not hard in the sense that it's a simple concept, but that's how this goes. It's not rocket science, right? It's not. What it is are you willing to put yourself out there every single day? And are you willing to do the work every single day? because that's what it takes. That's all it takes, mind you. Right? It's not sexy. It's not quick. Right? It just is.
It's
Right?
the
And
accumulation of, those small steps, like we were saying.
yeah,
And I think that you have a message too that reaches, well, it definitely reaches people like me. I consider myself a creator at this point. I mean,
mhm.
I can't believe this is getting ready to be is it my 12th book? I think it is, right? So I know. And then on top of that, what happens to me, and again, these are things that happen accidentally, so please don't think that I'm boasting
No,
to some way. But so I always do the Kickstarter, and I release the book to what I call my followers. I don't have a pile of them, but I got got to where I have successful Kickstarters. And then I release them to publishers, and I try and get published. Well, here it is. It's March, right? I got 4 published this year already, and it's only March. I got 2 with Antarctic. I got the Cthulhu story being re-released over with Russell Nolte's book. That's Cthulhu is hard to spell. It's on BackerKit now. I got, well, I told you I got the Antarctic press deal, which is an ongoing deal. I'll be in 2 issues of that. And then I guess I got my story showing up in Travis Gibbs' book from Orange Cone, which is, they call it Tales from the Collective, but mine is it's a 1950s sci-fi short story. So, and it's beneficial for me because I tend to write short stories. Like none of mine are, well, some of them are, but most of them tend to not be long form stories. They tend to be 8-pagers, 16-pagers. And then you can pitch a short one somewhere and it turns up in what they call an anthology.
Yeah, it allows you for wider distribution over a longer period of time. No, it's cool. Like one of my goals this year, like I wrote 3 blogs on my blog about my goals for the year. The podcast goal is simple. I'm taking it on the road. Like I've broken 1,000 episodes. And the thing is, when you do a show as long as I've done it, you have to constantly find new ways to challenge yourself. Because again, there's a grind to this, and it gets monotonous and it gets boring, right? And even though I enjoy talking to all of you, there are days. There are days, right?
Yeah.
There are days where I'm just like, you know what, I need to do something different. That's why I did the drinking draws. That's why I played John Magic, right? Because
which is a cool concept, by the way.
Yeah, I played the Magic on the air because why the fuck not, right? I did all these things because I needed to push myself. Right? You have to keep going, keep evolving. And I'm trying to, again, I don't know if it's going to be exactly 1,000. It might be 1,010. It might be 1,020. I don't know yet. It's going to take how long it takes. But I know, like, once I break a certain number, I'm probably going to take a break for the first time in like a long time. Not a long break, probably like a month to 2 months at most. And then when I go on the road, I want to do a traveling show where I go to the cool places and I talk to cool people. And maybe it's a 2-part show. Like part of the show is me doing this stupid cool thing in the middle of nowhere you never would anticipate. Because the other thing too, I've noticed about everywhere I've gone, I had this conversation earlier with Lisa earlier in the day, right? It's how do I put this? There's magic everywhere. Even in places you don't expect. Showing off that magic. And the other thing too, if I'm suddenly traveling abroad and showing people these cool different places, right? I think people would want to come along for the ride.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
So I have that aspect going for me. I get to meet the people I've met in the last 4 years. I get to go to cool places. I get to go around people that want to hang out and want to connect. Right? That's important. That's what I want.
Well, you can count on my unqualified support, Josh. I admire you and what you do, and you've been really great to me. And I'm just at the level where I'm grateful. I guess you'd say I'm still surprised by all this, and it's not ever. And and I'm similar to you in some ways. And what I mean by this, I have never written a product that said, well, I'm going to tailor it to this audience and it's going to be for this. Like I've always just written what I wanted to write. And, and I know that your writing is like that too. And I'm fortunate that people started to gravitate towards some of the things I was doing that, especially at the stage of the game.
Well, here's the thing. I take this for the sincerity it is. I'm always surprised too. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about what we talked about. I got to talk to Anbu for 2 hours as just friends, right? Monday. Tuesday, I got to talk to an actress friend of mine. Her name's Nikki Nash. We talked for like an hour and a bit, just chatting, like because we're friends. There's a surreality to that, okay?
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
like, when did I become this person, right? Right?
Yeah, exactly,
right?
man.
Right? Because that's the thing, right? And I say this with like in all humility, not hey, I know these cool. No, it's I am always flattered that people want to come on my show. Okay, I had Matt Knowles and Steph Cannon. They're fun.
Oh
They're
yeah,
fun
I
people.
love those two. Yeah, sweethearts.
Yeah, they're fun people, right? So you have those two. You have, and then again, I get, at the same time I get to talk to someone like I talked to Lisa today, from Medina. She has these stories about her dad, and I'm apparently I'm this encouraging dude. I am genuinely surprised. Always. I don't take it for granted because again, no one has to listen, no one has to listen to me. No one has to care. And I take it like I say it like that, not because I'm glad people care, but it's not a given. You're right. It's never a given. So yeah, I am pleasantly surprised. And I'm always going to be.
We're lucky, Josh. Guys like you and me, we're lucky because, how do I say this the right way? I went most of my whole life and never realized that this is what I wanted to do. And, like I say, I'm a little bit older than you, right? So I didn't even start doing this until I was 55 years old. And so in the last 3 years, I've had enough of a level of success that makes me go, man, why didn't I do this when I was 22? So my advice that I'd like to give to younger creators, there's only one time when it is necessary to take action. That time is right now. Don't wait. Don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait till you have the money. Don't wait till you got married. Don't wait till the kids are grown. Start right now, today. Write your project or write your poetry, make your sculpture, whatever it is that's back there that is driving you toward chasing your joy. Start chasing it today.
And that doesn't just apply to art, that's life. You're here once, folks.
Yeah.
You're here once. That's it. Right? Well, right. So if you believe in reincarnation, you're not going to remember this. This is your only chance. How do you want to spend it? Right? And I'm of the belief, and some people get grown when I say this, but we do what we want to do in this life.
Yeah.
That's it, right? There's no magic to this. That we do what we want to do. So, but there's two different masters here. One of them is fear, and the other one is is wonder. We can serve fear and not do anything, or we can serve wonder and do possibly everything. Now, on a personal note, right? On a personal note, I have done some stupid shit in this life, Tim. Right? I've done some stupid shit.
Yeah.
I don't regret any of it. The things that I remember that I didn't do hurt far more than the things I've done.
Yeah, sure, man. You miss all the shots that you don't take.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you miss the shots you do take, you got a hell of a story to go with it, usually, right? So,
it's true.
right. So, and you become a different person. I've said this. I said this in the last podcast. I'm positive by default. It's a default setting because I don't know. Like maybe you know more than me at this point in your life, but the more older I get, the more I'm confused about how the world works. So there's no way I can be realistic.
Yeah.
Right. You're right. I can't be realistic because I really don't know what the hell's going on.
I will tell you, the only advantage that age has given me is I look back on all the things that I thought were right. And I realize now, damn it, I was wrong about that too. So, it's,
so you're as confused as I am.
Yeah, maybe more so.
Yes.
Maybe more so.
Okay, cool.
It's funny because, so many of the illusions that we cling to are, like you said, they're based on fear and not based on any kind of truth at all.
Yeah. Our world is our ideas, and it doesn't really matter what that looks like. It doesn't even have to be a creative thing. Our world is our ideas. Period. That's why I discourage cynicism so very hard.
Yeah.
Right? Because cynicism's useless. Because what it does is it denies you the ability to see the whole picture. It kind of like I can see it in the short term. You go through a really bad moment in time, you need to cope. You might go into that shell for a very short period of time. But the cost in the long run is if you stay there, there's a whole world you miss.
Yeah.
Right? There's a whole world you miss. And it's and you make it so much harder on yourself. You're laughing a little bit.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, man. And it's funny because I was talking about this yesterday on one of our shows, and it's just tying so directly into everything you're saying. And I guess the reason why it's not necessarily that I'm laughing, but it gives me a kind of joy to hear you say this, because so many of us are missing this in our lives, you know?
Yeah. Well, like I said, cynicism's useless.
Yeah.
I don't know what real is. Like I'm not. You have a definition of real that I don't. I'm going to give you a golf clap because I probably won't believe you. And so I keep it positive. It's a default setting. It doesn't mean I can't get disappointed. It doesn't mean that it's all going to work out perfectly. It won't. Not really worried about that. What I'm worried about is it tends to work out though, and I see more because I'm open to that possibility. And that's the difference between an optimist and a cynic, folks. An optimist, I'm not talking the toxic positivity of like, oh, it's all going to be good. I'm not going to I won't preach it like that. Sometimes it really is shit. I'm not going to lie to you. Right? Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you ride it out, like life has a tendency to work out. Right? It has a tendency to, right? So given enough time. So you have to, so in the bad moments, feel what you feel in those moments. Swear at God, or I'm not encouraging that. You might get struck, but I mean, I'd say like whatever you feel in that moment, let yourself feel it. But have faith it's going to work out, and be open to the possibility be open to the good that comes in those shitty moments too.
Yeah. It's a great sentiment.
Mm-hmm. Right. In the meantime, I'm trying to, like I said, I want to be on the road by August. That's my goal. That is my goal. So this month, a little later in the month, I go meet the American consulate in Calgary, see what I got to do to get my American citizenship. Then I get my driver's license in the States, because God bless America. You don't have to actually live in certain states to get your license.
Right.
God.
Well, hey, if you swing by Pennsylvania or Maryland, swing by and see me. Or by the way, we'll be at the Baltimore Comic-Con in September, if you think you'll be heading that way.
It depends. Here's the thing. I have a buddy getting married in September.
Okay.
I'm going to be at that wedding. He is one of my best friends, and I will move heaven and earth to make sure I'm there. But if it's not on that weekend or in that moment, we'll see. I have to. So some of the adventures I have already kind of quietly agreed to, even though I haven't set a date for them. So I gotta go. The actress friend, her boyfriend, and I are going to meet, right, and get gloriously wasted into some kind of hijinks in Vancouver. I'm going on a chocolate hunt with another author. Yep, that's right, and I got stuff like eating ice cream under train tracks in Pittsburgh. So definitely.
Hey, man, you're going to be in my neck of the woods.
I eventually, yeah. I don't know what, like I said, I'm going to try to figure this all out in like the next 2-3 months. Right. And I'm probably going to be opening up a Patreon page as well, because I'll be like, hey, if you want to support me, just be where it is. I'm trying to figure out, I'm quietly filming some, what I call secret shows. Like shows I'm doing in Calgary. Any guests I'm interviewing in Calgary between now and when I go, I'm trying to do them in person as much as I possibly can, because I want to have some content ready to go, but B, I want to figure out the concept of the show going forward as well. Right. So I'm playing with it a little bit right now, but by August, I'm going to be ready to go.
I'm going to hold you to this, man. I'll be looking for you.
Yes. Yeah. Might be, again, I might not see you right at the Baltimore Con, but I will see you. I promise at some point on this journey.
Deal.
All right. So, good sir. So we got to do this like this. We got to do this like this. Two things. First off, thank you. So this is a countdown. I made this as a special countdown episode 1000 thing. So in the last, I've had guests from every area on the show, and I've kind of quietly gone to a few of them. Thank you. You, good sir, I am very happy to see that even you give me hope that when I get to your age, I will have the enthusiasm I have now. And I say that in the best possible way.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be a crankier monster than you are, but I will try to keep the enthusiasm you have, because it is a wonderful thing. I am incredibly happy for your accidental successes. If there's one last piece of advice the last piece of advice I'm going to give you is this: chocolate chip cookies was an accident. So were stick-it notes. Not all accidents are bad. Sometimes they lead to better things.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. So you should plug something.
Okay, yeah, I got quite a few things. I'll just give a quick rundown. My name's Timothy Fling. I'm a writer from York, Pennsylvania, and a publisher, and I'm a YouTube personality, accidentally. The easiest way to follow me is on YouTube. They have now what they call a handle. I am at Timothy Fling, and you can view our show there. It comes out once a week. It's called The Top 11, where we go over the latest 11 cool things in pop culture. For example, last week was cryptids, and this week is the top 11 UFO sightings. So they're doing really great. And if you're a creator and you have a project that you'd like to promote, including you, Josh, I'd love to have you come on and we'll chat with you. Come on in and we'll talk about cool stuff. We have fun. And then at the end, we will promote your project to our viewers. On top of that, I've got my next Kickstarter project right around the corner. It is a cryptid-based science fiction tale called Call of the Cryptid. It's got artwork by Erwin Arosa. It's going to be a banger. I mean, we can't wait to bring it to you. The book's actually already done. We've got all the artwork is completed. It's in the lettering stage now. So you'll be seeing that. I'll have a link ready in probably the next 14 days.
Sweet. So you'll be able to give it to me when it's up. So, all right. And we'll talk about a couple things off the air before you disappear. But
okay,
as I wrap this bad boy up, remember, Tim, they gave me an award for this long time ago. Right.
Wonderful.
Anyway, here are my advertising services. I do video, audio, words, and pictures. I too make videos, much like Timothy does, but also I can promote your project and yourselves. I can build the best version of you in some form or fashion. You can please check out the webpage for more details. Madeline Halling Rosing is Friday. There, I have no more on the schedule.
Oh, nice.
I checked. Right.
Yeah, I love her.
She's
terrific.
Very astute. Very smart. But for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I will see you guys on Friday.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Always